Steve Flotteron here is from Islip Town Board. I wanted to come up and give us a little report on Islip. Show the interest that are taking place. Now that he has 5 members on the board with him, I wonder how it feels.
It feels great, and I have to thank this room for my election a couple of years ago, and also the new board. I figured I was trying to. There's so many things I want to report, but I want to keep it short because I know you have a big meeting. But I'll first start with the bad news. Then I'll get into a little better news. First is the budget, like you hear everywhere in the world. I know the Tea Party, this group, CSA, was coming to town board meetings. They used to hear during my town board meetings fighting for an open process for the budget and everything else. Now, since I have control, and I'm able to really dig into the books, and you've seen it in the paper, the Town of Islip, the bad shape it was in. Before Supervisor Nolan got on board, the prior administration was controlled by Republicans. Every year they were growing the surplus in the town. In the last 5 years, they had burned through something like that $50 million of surplus. And every year during a budget hearing, again, I know, Steve was at some of the budget hearings, I'll get the report from the controller, we're not raising, we're raising taxes a little bit, or we're not raising taxes. It's a good budget. But there was a shell game, and it would give me an understanding is that I'm a businessman. I sell insurance and investments for a living. I have a stockbroker's license. So I have some common sense of this stuff. And I was always scratching my head like the numbers don't add up. Like we lay off 30% of the employees, and they don't have a contract. So shouldn't our payroll go down roughly 30%? And the numbers aren't adding up. And I would ask for the controller, give me actual payroll. Again, I'm not an accountant, but it's a common sense thing. I've heard people say order. I got 2006, 7, 8, 9, and 10 actual payroll. In 2006, the payroll in the town in the general fund was $52 million. Nolan got on in the press, it was like say 15 million. The following year, it says we laid off another 100 people. It was basically every year within $100,000, it stayed at $52 million for the 5 years before. So the news day would never question or challenge, and I would give them the information, and they refused to write it. Even using an example of some of the little scandals that was going on in the town of Islip, we have a department called the IDA, Economic Development, well run, and we used to always use when there's just closings, we use our town attorney in-house to do it. Because let's face it, what our attorneys get paid are much less than as outside attorneys. Everybody's ever hired an attorney like $300 an hour. Our attorney, we had a gentleman who was making part-time $30,000 a year, this attorney, and part of his job was to do these IDA closings. Well, the IDA fees we would get in was $40,000. So you have a part-time person who did part of his time, so maybe it cost the town $5,000, and we have $40,000 of revenue. When Supervisor Nolan got, and the Democrats had the majority control of the board, they had a better way to do it. They hired an outside attorney to do it, which would give him all the $40,000, and he happened to be the Councilman from the town of Huntington. Well, I have now the new board, and I brought this up publicly. The news, they would never write that story because it's about Democrat. Even going past the money, which is horrible, the stealing of this of our tax dollars, is conflict of interest. Because he's a representative of Huntington. His job is to make sure businesses come to Huntington. Just like I represent Islip, my job is to steal companies to come to our town. So he represents as an elected official town of Huntington, but he's controlling our IDA closing, which is the closing of major companies coming to the town. Well, anyway, the town board meeting the other day, they announced we did a resolution to change it back to get our revenue back. Newsday was a nice story. Yeah. And you also connect the campaign donations from companies to amounts of hundreds of dollars. It went to the supervisor. There was another scandal about a bakery where there was a pay-to-play thing. That attorney only gave money twice in his life. It was to Cupperson a bunch of times, or one time to none of that will ever get rid of. Anyway, besides the scandals, I know you have a lot more. I'll just go briefly. The good news is, and I thank this organization for being a big help, is we have in the town of Islip now, which is rare probably in any government, you have 5 people on this board which were not politicians prior. These are people that were successful professionals. Excluding the 4 board members, we all have kids in the school district. We all run businesses. Councilman Cochran was here a while ago, most of the evening. He has an insurance agency. He also he's in the military in high levels. Anthony Sem has the law firm. I mean, these are people like myself. We're losing money doing this job because we want to do it. Just like you're here tonight, you doing it. How much money you make doing this? So again, it's a rare opportunity. And why I'm going into this thing is that basically, really, is a lot of I know your thoughts about this country. Become successful, work the farm. Go to, when you get older and mature, you are successful, give back to your community, go to Washington or Albany, do a little bit for a couple of years to help out. So we have no career politicians in this board. With that, the good news of all this is the problems with budgets and everything else. You have 5 successful people who know how to look at numbers and challenge, and we all have strong personalities, and not any of us controlled by a party that think this way. We are arguing, we disagree. And I see Karen in the back works in town shaking her head. She knows all our personalities and she deals with all of us, is that, so I like to maybe, on the positive side, I learned a couple of years ago, don't waste a good crisis. If there wasn't Jimmy Carter, we would never have Ronald Reagan, as you would say. And I think we should really give Obama a lot of respect because we're going to get a great new change coming forward. So, and we improve things. So with that, we are now, with the support and the anger of the people, we're looking through our budget, everything. Some things, tough decisions, we're cutting things. There are people that enjoy those services and need them, but are we in the business of it? We're asking on each thing. We're a town, we have certain powers, and those are the things, number one, that we're responsible for. Some of the other luxuries, if we are going to keep them, can they be self-sustaining over time? Like say if we have an art program, well, will the fees cover it and everything else? Then great, let's try to help us get as many services. Or do we do do we do partnerships with some not-for-profits and maybe we do it smarter and better than us? And everything's being looked at, from every single department. And again, we do have a large enough to cover. Give you a quick number of general fund. It costs us about, it's about $100 million in our general fund. We only raise taxes of it. Most of it comes from fees. $26 million of the budget comes from the tax rate. So when you see in the paper we're $26 million short, that is the problem this board is dealing with right now. If we did nothing and went forward and if there was no inflation, we would have to double your taxes. And that's the messy like this. So I also, we need your support as we make some tough decisions. That is the number. And I would say Judy and Steve, who are tough people, when I say something, I'll show you black and white. I don't read it because I don't have a good poker face. So as I say this statement, we did nothing, we have to double your taxes. And that is the stressful problem we're dealing with right now. I am head of the budget task force, working with the supervisor and all the other board members. We're all, one thing actually working with a lot of military men now in this board. We all, what's that word they say? Stay in your channel, stay in your lane. We've all been divided up on tasks and stay in your lane, and we're working on different departments and topics. So a great, saying the military end, which I didn't have a background in. I'm learning a lot. Even from supervisor approaching, it's a couple of years younger than me. I'm a senior guy. I sit there and know that I'm learning from him. And actually, he's not here tonight because he's on reserve duty, correct, Gary? So he's out there protecting our, being ready to protect, keeping himself well-trained so we feel safe here. Again, thank you for this time. I'll be here afterwards because I know you have other speakers, so thank you.
By that way, that was one of our prerequisites for who we'd like to support. We don't like career politicians, even if they agree with us. I mean, after a while, you're going to get tainted by the system. So I was very proud to support these kind of people. Steve was the first one. He was on the board by himself. I still feel bad for him. He put in that duty, but now I guess he can relax and enjoy himself.